Oh, if only we could just make games and not worry about the money of it all. But alas, oftentimes, in order to keep making games, we have to keep making money. Our next speaker, a product manager for Rainbow Unicorn Games, has spent years in mobile games, figuring out more about the systems that keep the cash flowing. Please welcome to the stage, Johnny Liu.
Hi everyone, my name is Johnny, and I'm so glad you can come join my talk on the history of game monetization and how we got to where we are. In this talk, we're going to walk through some of the ways games have been monetized, and at the end, we're going to talk about where I think we should go from here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about myself first. I have over a decade of game development experience, all in the free-to-play space. I've done MMOs, MOBAs, battle royales, collector games, strategy games, you name it. I've probably dabbled in it in some way, shape, or form. And mostly my background was in business first, so that's why I'm really big into monetization and basically like the business side of games. And because we are talking about revenue and monetization, I wanted to go ahead and build the foundation for how we want to think about monetization. Games are ultimately business, and a business's goal is to drive value for its shareholders, usually, which means driving a profit, making a profit. And you probably heard this a billion times before, but I just want to reiterate again. Profit is made up of two components, revenue and cost, how much you made and how much it cost you to make. For this talk, we're actually going to be focused on revenue and not cost. And revenue is actually made up of three major components here. Price, how much did you sell it for? Quantity, how many did you sell? And time, how long did you sell it for? And so for a simple graphical representation, I'm a very visual person, so I present you this lovely masterpiece of art by me that shows a graphical representation of price and quantity. Essentially, higher the price means fewer people can buy, and lower the price means more people can buy. Makes sense, right? So naturally, it's not. Oh, sorry. One more thing. It's not always going to be a flat line. Like sometimes, if you have something, you'll see it, and it's like, oh, that's nice, and then you get like a notification for your Steam sales, like 10% off. You'll probably look at it and be like, nah, 10% off. I'll wait for a bigger sale, right? So not everything is going to be like perfectly flat as it is in this chart, but just to give you an idea, the concept is higher price means fewer people buy, lower price, more people can buy. And so the question becomes, how much do you sell it for? How much do you sell something for? And that's not always a clear-cut question or a clear-cut answer, right? Is a high price always bad? Is low price always good? Answer to this usually lies behind a concept that we talk about in business called elasticity. I mentioned earlier, when you see something that's like 10% off, you're probably not going to buy it. However, some things, when it's 10% off, for example, if something never goes on sale, and the only time they do a sale is that once a year deal where it's 10% off, the people who buy that product are likely going to wait until that 10% savings and then they're going to go for it, right? So something that is inelastic, which is something that's more of a necessity, such as insulin, doesn't matter what price you charge. People are just going to buy it, right? Because you need it. You absolutely need it. Something that is generally more elastic would be like video games, right? People don't really need video games. They just kind of buy it. And when there's a sale, there's probably more people buying it. And that's kind of the concept that we work with a lot of these monetization models is how elastic is this product? How big of a sale do we want to do? And how effective do we think it's going to be? And ultimately, in the end, when we do this, is we're trying to find the highest possible price for every single person who wants to buy it at that point in time. So, for example, if games are $60, not everyone's going to spend $60 to go buy that game. Some people might want to wait for a $40 sale, right? Or a $40 price point before they buy it. But ideally, when I sell it, everyone who's going to buy it for $60 is going to pay me $60 for it, and everyone who's going to buy it for $40 is going to pay me $40 for it. Because if I sell something at $40, the people who would have bought it at $60 are going to buy it, and then I lose out on $20. And with that being said, we're going to go straight into the first era of the home entertainment system, the cartridge era. Back in the day when games came in little cartridges, they're just single cell items, and you bought it and you got a full game. It's that simple. We still do it today, except that most of the time we're just buying a digital download. You buy a thing, you get a game. And occasionally, I mentioned this earlier before, and everyone's pretty familiar with it, is you put a sale, and when the sale goes off, you manipulate the price. Price goes down for a short period of time, people buy it. So in this model, what we're doing is we're taking the revenue equation of price, quantity, of time, and we are going to change the price for a short period of time. And at some point in time, technology moved on from just doing single cartridges, and we ended up with the internet. What the internet did, for the most part, was nothing short of amazing, but also at the same time, it helped create the concept of products as a service. So what you're buying is no longer just a one-time deal. You're buying a consistent service, right? It's almost like, your newspaper subscription or magazine subscription or cable television. That's what it turned into. And so it became something that you kept consuming over time. And the concept was then, well, why do I sell it once when I can just keep selling it over and over again? A lot of the beginning MMOs were basically on this model, which is you kept buying a monthly subscription, you buy a monthly subscription, not necessarily getting new content every month, but you were still using that content, so you're essentially subscribing to it. And at some point, people were like, I'm paying for this thing, but I'm not really using it all the time. And so some people started to drop off on that service. And then we looked back in time to actually borrow what the arcades did. This is the beginning of a microtransaction. The arcades were actually the original microtransactions, if you think about it. When you're growing up as a kid, or when I was growing up a kid, you would take, your $5 or your dollar, and you got your quarters of tokens. And then you went to the arcade and you bought, what, 3 lives or like a couple of rounds of like a fighting game or something. And if you lost, well, you could just pay for more lives. But if you're good, you could keep going. And that concept is very much the same in a lot of microtransactions, down to the part where people stopped using quarters and you had to buy like Chuck E. Cheese tokens, right? You couldn't exchange those tokens back to dollars, just like right now when you buy gems or whatever in a, live service game, you're not going to be able, they're not going to let you sell that currency back into hard cash. And this became really popular in MMOs and free to play MMOs, especially in Asia. And eventually it just percolated itself into smartphones and apps. And when you think about like a phone these days, it's basically a computer you can take around with you and you can load it with any kind of arcade game you wanted. Right. So people were just fighting for this, your quarters essentially. And what it does is instead of selling one thing once, you keep selling it over and over and over again, right? You want to buy more lives, you want to buy more boosts, and so on and so forth. And so instead of having one thing, you have a whole bunch of things, right? People are like, okay, well, we're just gonna do like a sale on like, XP boosts or a sale on cosmetics, right? But this week, instead of cosmetics, we're gonna do, I don't know, something else, right? And then so when free to play MMO catalogs, when you're looking in an online store, this is what it basically is. There's 500 different things. Some things will be on sale, some things won't. And we alternate them back and forth to see which one's elastic, which one drives any demand for players. And of course, at some point, we have to talk about gacha games and basically loot boxes. And I say this with much love and some humor is blame the CCGs, because the CCGs were the original gacha games. Magic Gathering, Pokemon, that's exactly the same model. You bought a pack of cards, you don't know what's in it, you're gonna get a rare maybe, and it might be a good rare, it might not be the rare you wanted, so on and so forth. And basically, what it does, it goes beyond just making the price like a discount. It just completely obfuscates it because you don't know when you're going to get the thing you want. right? You're going to go in there, you're going to buy your pack of cards, you're going to buy your, 10 rolls or whatever. You might get it on the first 10 rolls. Great, right? You might not get it for the next 500 rolls, which is entirely possible. Some companies now have gotten a little bit better about it and put in like pity timers. But back when I was playing, I remember I was playing Puzzle and Dragons, and when they did one of those collaboration events, I went somewhere like $400, $500 down the hole just to chase one card. They had no pity. There's no trading. You just kept going and going, and that was painful. And that was like the last time I actually really just spent on that game because that just took me out. I was like, done. And you don't know when you're gonna get it. So maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't. And obviously they combine it with another limited time availability so that you're focused on, wait, I have this amount of time to get my funds together or to get whatever resources I need to get my chance at getting this thing that I want. And so we're still doing a change in time, and then the price is just like, whatever. You get it for free because you saved a currency, or you can get it, for a lot of money. Who knows? Right? But everyone's banking on, well, I'll get it with the currency that I saved up for free. And lastly, I think it was like I- I've lost track of time. Maybe it was a couple years ago, a year ago. There's a whole thing about NFTs. I have to talk about this because it is doing the one thing that none of the previous, or is trying to do the one thing that none of the previous models have touched upon, and that is trying to change the quantity. Right? The whole concept of a digital collectible is to make that collectible something that it's unique, that there's only so many of. But whenever I think about this, it's like, well, the first reason is why. Why do you only want to sell so many of them? And if you do only want to sell so many of them, why do you need this particular technology? Because we've done it before. I always point to back in WoW Classic, the 40-person raid. There was like a special unit that only one person in the entire server could get. They definitely didn't have NFTs back then, but you could still just make the one thing, and it's really not necessary to do all this other stuff behind it. And so what they want to do is they want to control the number of things that you can get, or number of items available. So if anyone's ever had to buy some sort of limited item thing, like Ticketmaster, right? You want concert tickets, there's only so many concert tickets. That's kind of what I think what they're trying to do with it. It's like, oh, look, there's this thing that you can get in the game, but it's kind of like Ticketmaster. And now you have to like bid on it and try to fight people for it. Not really my favorite. And I was just gonna try to make it so that really, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, we're all just in the digital world here, and it's just like, okay, well, you can just make another horse mount armor. And like I said, it's just you don't really need NFTs to do it. You can already just do it. You can just say, hey, we're only gonna sell 100 of these, and that's that. That's all you need to do. And now, when I think about where do we want to go in the future, and something that really makes me sad is that we are always so focused on short-term goals in a capitalistic world that the only thing that we always hear about is what are our numbers for the next quarter? And we're not really thinking about how are we treating our consumers who are playing the game. And I think longevity really needs to be a focus, is driving more lifetime revenue so that people who play the game enjoy the game and continue to come back to the same thing because we gave a good entertainment service and they want to keep playing it and they want to spend money to support it. In order to do that, I think if we think of ways to treat our consumers with more transparency, for example, something I talk to some people about is there's this thing in WoW that you can do is slash played. And when you do a slash played, it tells you how many hours you've played, and people like to laugh about it. And that's fine. That's like, well, what about like slash spent, right? Why can't we tell people, hey, you spent this much money in, this amount of money in our game? They basically have the receipts because we have to provide them a receipt, right? So instead of, making them do the work to go buy, to go dig out how much money they spent, we can just tell them, hey, you've spent this much money. And sometimes when I think about it, it's like, yeah, that's a lot of money, but I've also been playing this game for like 8 years. So that's fair, right? I'll do the math. I was like, okay, I spent like $50 a year playing this game. That doesn't seem that bad. right? And we just want to be transparent with it. And we'll tell them, hey, this is what you're spending on, this is what you're getting. And honestly, I wouldn't even mind if I just said, hey, do you want to put a spending limit on your game? You can do that, right? And I'll even like send you a notification saying, hey, you're about to spend more than what you told me you want to spend on the game. Are you sure you want to do this? And those are things that people don't really want to talk about or do because at the end, they're afraid that it's going to hurt the bottom line. And that's a fair risk to take. But I think it should be the right direction we should be going to. And yeah, just really stop focusing on, hey, we should make as much money as soon as we go out and just try to make a really good game that people enjoy that we want to come back and spend money on. And last parting thoughts I have, um, if you're releasing a game or you've already released the game that you have like certain items that are a live service game, test your elasticity. Um, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Is you want to know where you have demand that is elastic, where you can be like, okay, I want to put it on sale, and you know that when you put it on sale, people will come buy it. Always start with a lower discount price because when you start with a higher discount price, like if you just jump straight to 50% and it does really well, and like, okay, well, I want to do 20%. People are going to remember the first 50%. They're going to wait for that one. So start by doing like a lower one and then like slowly ramp it up when you realize that your lower ones aren't really getting you more buyers. And then ultimately understand your player base. What do they want to do? Look at your data, figure out what they're actually doing in the game. What things can you do to further enhance their enjoyment of doing those actions? And then make a plan around it. And that's it for my talk. You have any questions, you can contact me, message me. I'm always open. Thanks for coming.
Elasticity, that's an important concept. Everything is subject to that pricing and demand tension, even game engines themselves. Games are many things. And when we look at games in the industry from a monetization perspective, understanding our past helps us make smarter decisions in the future. So, thank you for that informative talk, Johnny.